Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut to understanding, well, complex ideas. Forget digging through tons of articles. We pull out the key stuff so you can get smart fast.
Uh-huh.
Today, we're plunging right into David Deida's The Way of the Superior Man. And, it's got that subtitle, A Man's Guide to Mastering the Challenges of Women, Work, and Sexual Desire.
Yeah, that subtitle, it definitely catches your attention. And look, we know you, the listener, you're coming at this from all kinds of different places, different experiences.
Right.
So our goal here isn't really to force anyone into these rigid boxes. It's more about digging into Davita's main ideas. Things like masculine and feminine energy, your sense of purpose, how relationships tick.
Yeah, the dynamics.
Exactly, the dynamics. All with the hope of offering some, valuable insights for pretty much anyone who wants a more engaged, maybe more meaningful life.
Exactly. And Deida, he's building on his earlier stuff here, right?
Yeah.
Looking at sexuality, spiritual growth, these big principles.
That's right.
Think of us as filtering all that down to find the practical bits, the stuff you can actually use to get a better handle on yourself, your relationships. Doesn't matter what your gender is.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today, let's unpack these key things. That energy dance, masculine, feminine, why purpose is apparently so crucial, navigating relationships, and even some interesting body practices he suggests, all to help you live more fully. Okay, let's get into it.
Okay. So Deida starts off describing what he terms the newly evolving man.
Yeah.
And you need to forget the old stereotypes here.
Right, not the caveman or the sensitive new age guy necessarily.
Not exactly. This is someone who's comfortable in his masculine energy, driven, confident, has integrity. But, and this is key, he's also open, sensitive, connected to something, well, deeper inside.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting, I think. Deida suggests we've kind of moved past those really old school male-female roles.
Yeah, the traditional ones.
And even past the more recent idea of a 50-50 split in relationships.
Yeah.
Which, equality is great, obviously. But Deida kind of wonders, does that sometimes just flatten things out?
Flatten the energy, yeah. Leading to what he calls sexual neutrality, where that spark, that passion just sort of diminishes.
It souls out.
Yeah. And what's fascinating here is how he brings in sexual polarity.
Polarity, okay. Like magnets?
Kind of. Think of it like the pole between the positive and negative ends of a battery. He uses masculine and feminine poles to describe this energetic charge, this pull.
Right.
And it's important. This isn't strictly about your gender identity or who you're attracted to. It's about the energy dynamic, the difference that creates that attraction. Like magnets, yeah. He argues that passion really needs this difference in energy. He even playfully calls it needing a ravisher and a ravishee, but in an energetic sense,
Energetically. Got it. And he suggests most of us have a default setting, lean more one way.
Pretty much. More masculine, more feminine, or maybe more balanced in our sexual essence. He throws out a number, maybe 90% of people lean more one way than the other.
Okay.
And his point is, if we try to suppress that, our natural energy, if we try to force ourselves into some perfectly balanced ideal that just isn't us, well, that can lead to feeling pretty unhappy, stressed out.
It's like fighting your own nature.
Exactly. So if you connect that to the bigger picture, figuring out your own natural energy leaning, where it becomes pretty crucial for feeling fulfilled, not just in love, but everywhere in life. When you're living aligned with your core energy, you can just be more authentic.
Okay. That makes sense. Now, shifting to purpose, Deida is super, super clear on this one. Your purpose must come before your relationship.
Whoa. Okay. That sounds intense.
It does. But hang on. It's not about being selfish or just ditching your partner.
Right.
It's about recognizing that when someone, and he focuses particularly on men here, puts the relationship ahead of their deepest drive, their purpose,
Right.
they actually weaken themselves. And if you weaken yourself, you can't actually be fully present for your partner either. You're not bringing your full strength.
So what exactly does he mean by purpose? Is it just your job?
Good question. Not necessarily just the job title or the paycheck, though it could involve those. It's more like that deep internal compass, that mission, that thing that really drives you.
Ah, okay. The inner why.
Yeah. And Deida argues if you're not plugged into that, if you're not living aligned with that inner drive, you're going to feel empty, like something's missing. And that lack of fulfillment, it bleeds into everything, relationships included.
And he pushes this further, doesn't he, about not using family as an excuse.
He does. He really emphasizes not using family as a reason to sort of sideline your real purpose. He'd say, look, being involved with family is vital, obviously.
Of course.
But sacrificing your core mission, that actually weakens you. And in the long run, the family dynamic too.
Mm-hmm.
Because someone not living their truth, they can get resentful.
Right.
Right. And that lack of authenticity, everyone around them feels it on some level.
That's a really challenging idea. So connecting back to the energies, he sees masculine energy as driven by mission.
Yeah, mission leading towards freedom, ultimately. That's the masculine priority in his view.
Whereas the feminine priority is often more focused on love and connection.
That's the contrast he draws. And understanding those potentially different core drives, well, it can definitely offer a different lens on relationship dynamics.
Okay. Makes you think.
Right. Okay, now let's get into some of his specific ideas on dealing with women. The first one might make you pause. Women are not liars.
Okay. Intriguing start. What's the logic there?
His point is that a woman's words often reflect her feelings in the moment, which can be, really fluid, like the weather.
Ah, okay. Not fixed logical statements.
Exactly. He uses this image comparing her words to the ocean or clouds, always shifting, expressing an underlying energy or feeling. So the takeaway isn't don't listen. It's listen for the feeling underneath the words.
Like an emotional weather report, not a binding contract.
Perfect analogy. Emotional weather report. And linked to that, he asserts the truth of the feminine is often just what she's experiencing right then.
So if she says, I'm furious in the heat of the moment.
That's a genuine expression of that feeling right now. It's not necessarily a permanent state or a final verdict on the relationship.
Okay, so Deida advises,
What?
Don't take the literal words as gospel, especially if things are tense.
Pretty much. Especially if that deep flow of love and connection isn't really present in that moment. It's not about dismissing her, but about tuning into that deeper emotional current.
Understand the depth, but make your own decisions based on your core.
Exactly. You listen, you feel, but you anchor in your own truth. And here's a really practical one he offers. Praise her.
Praise her? How so?
Deida reckons that, masculine energy often grows through challenge, overcoming obstacles. But feminine energy, it blossoms with praise, genuine appreciation.
Interesting. So praising qualities actually strengthens them.
That's the idea. Like watering a plant, you nurture what you want to see more of. He suggests it actually magnifies the quality being praised.
So don't just praise what's already perfect, but maybe praise the glimmers of what you value, like even small things.
Yeah, exactly. Appreciate the small signs of radiance or vitality or happiness you see. He almost frames praise as fuel for those feminine qualities.
Okay. Then there's one that feels a bit tricky, maybe. Tolerating her leads to resenting her.
Yeah, that one can sound counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Deida's arguing that the feminine often actually wants a man to step up, to offer direction, to have strength.
As opposed to just passively going along with everything.
Right. When someone just kind of tolerates things or agrees to everything to keep the peace, well, resentment can build up on his side. And on her side, she might feel adrift, unsupported.
Okay. So taking the lead sometimes is actually desired. He gives an example, right? Like a surprise getaway versus what do you want to do?
Exactly that example. The surprise, planned trip often lands better because it shows confident direction. It's about her feeling safe enough to surrender to his lead, especially in intimacy.
Allows her to relax into her feminine energy more. I see.
Then there's stay with her intensity to a point.
Okay, what does that mean? Don't run away from strong emotions.
Basically, yeah. When she's expressing strong feelings, Deida suggests meeting that intensity with your own calm presence, your love. Not trying to shut her down or get defensive or flee.
Be the anchor.
Be the anchor in the storm, exactly. But he adds that qualifier to a point, which implies, healthy boundaries are still important. It's not about being a doormat.
Right. It's about not being intimidated by the intensity, meeting it with stability.
Precisely. And this next one is fascinating. Giving her what she wants is not always loving her.
Okay, that really sounds contradictory. Give me the context.
He tells this anecdote. A wife asks her husband to ejaculate inside her during sex. He does. But afterwards, she's actually upset.
Why? She asked for it.
Because, according to Deida's interpretation, her deeper desire wasn't just the physical act itself. It was to feel his strength, his commitment to his own truth, his own practice in this context, maybe related to conserving sexual energy, which we'll get to.
So she was testing his resolve in a way, wanted him to stick to his guns even against her request.
That's the idea. It highlights that women might desire a man's strength, his adherence to his own core principles, even if their words seem to ask for something else. It's about trusting his deeper knowing.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's complex.
It is. And finally on this theme, she doesn't really want to be number one.
Doesn't want to be the top priority, really.
It sounds harsh, but hear him out. While someone might seem to want to be the absolute center of their partner's universe, Deida suggests a woman actually feels more secure, more trust, more respect when her man is deeply committed to his highest purpose.
So his dedication to something bigger than just the relationship actually makes her feel better.
That's the claim. That dedication, even if it means his focus is elsewhere sometimes, builds her confidence in his strength and direction. It's reassuring, apparently.
Okay, lots to chew on there.
Definitely. Now let's shift gears slightly. Let's talk about your dark side, the sort of masculine energy that maybe gets pushed down.
Okay, the shadow stuff.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Deida says, you are always searching for freedom.
Yeah.
He sees this core masculine drive as this constant desire to break free from constraint.
Examples.
Think about the release of orgasm, the thrill of winning a tough game, achieving a hard goal, even facing danger.
Sports, adventure.
Exactly. It taps into this deep desire for release, for freedom. He even connects it to that idea of petit mort, the little death of orgasm. It's about letting go.
Okay. So acknowledge these desires, the urge for freedom, maybe even to ravish, but in a loving context.
Yeah, own those darker, more primal desires, but channel them through love. Don't bury them, integrate them.
Which leads to another provocative one. She wants the killer in you.
Yeah, and again, we need to be clear, not literal violence.
Right. What does he mean then?
The capacity for fearlessness, the ability to face challenges head on, including her emotional intensity without backing down, that unwavering quality.
But resolve, the strength.
Yes. He argues that suppressing this more, let's say, assertive masculine energy makes a man less vital, and that deep down, women often crave this underlying strength and resolve in a partner. It makes them feel safe.
Inner resilience, courage to meet life and her.
Exactly. And he also says she needs your consciousness to match her energy.
Meaning?
Meaning, the feminine can be incredibly dynamic, energetically, emotionally expressive, and a man needs to be able to meet that intensity with his own steady awareness, his presence.
If he can't stay grounded when she's, say, upset or ecstatic.
She might keep testing him, consciously or unconsciously, testing his stability. It comes back to being that steady anchor, staying present, grounded, even when the emotional seas get rough.
Okay, so masculine presence meeting feminine energy.
That's the dynamic he describes. Now, turning to feminine energy and attraction. First point, your attraction to the feminine is inevitable, at least for men with a predominantly masculine essence.
And it's not something to be ashamed of.
Not at all, he says. He explains that feminine energy, that radiance, that aliveness, it actually pulls a man out of his head, grounds him in his body.
And it's not just attraction to women, right? It's broader.
Yeah, he points that out. Men with a masculine core are often drawn to anything embodying that flowing, receptive energy. Music, nature, art.
Things that feel alive, beautiful.
Exactly. It's rejuvenating. Maybe even part of a deeper longing for a connection, for love itself.
Okay. And then his advice is to choose a woman who is your complementary opposite.
Energetically speaking, yes, in terms of that core sexual essence. So strong masculine essence often finds the most spark with a strong feminine essence.
Like the battery again. Opposite poles create the charge.
Right. He cautions that, trying to force it with someone who has a very similar energy, or maybe a more neutral energy, when your own core is strongly polarized. Well, that exciting spark might just not be there.
So know yourself, know what complements you.
And know what is important in your woman. For a man with that masculine core, Deida says, her feminine energy itself is probably going to be paramount.
Don't expect one person to be everything.
Exactly. Don't try to make your passionate lover also your perfect business partner and your golf buddy if those energies conflict. Prioritize the core connection that matters most in that intimate relationship.
Avoids diluting the main thing.
Right. He also brings up the energy of young women.
Oh. How does he frame that?
He characterizes it as often being more radiant, less compromised perhaps by past hurts or societal conditioning on their feminine expression.
Like a natural vitality, but not exclusive to youth.
Yeah, he frames it as an aspect of youthful energy, but acknowledges that women of any age can have a deep, compelling feminine radiance, of course.
Okay. And finally on attraction, this idea of temperature. Hot versus cool feminine energy.
Yeah, each woman has a temperature that can heal or irritate you. It's this idea that different women radiate different kinds of feminine energy, some more fiery, some more calming.
And what you need or resonate with might change.
Exactly. Your needs might shift depending on where you are in your life. It's about recognizing that energetic impact.
Interesting. Okay, let's pivot to the body practices. These sound intriguing.
They are. He strongly suggests that ejaculation should be converted or consciously chosen.
Converted. What does that mean and why?
Okay, so he gives a few reasons. Physical, spiritual, relational. He argues that learning to manage ejaculatory energy can lead to increased vitality, a deeper spiritual connection maybe, and build more trust with a partner. How does it build trust?
The idea is that frequent, uncontrolled ejaculation can deplete a man's energy, and a woman might subtly sense that lack of self-mastery, which could erode trust over time.
So it's about either experiencing orgasm without ejaculation or making a conscious choice if you do ejaculate.
That's the gist. Bringing awareness and intention to it rather than it just being an automatic release.
Okay. Then there's breathe down the front. Sounds simple.
It is, but he says it's powerful. It's about keeping the front of your body chest, solar plexus, belly open and relaxed.
Why the front?
He notes men often hold tension there, stress, self-consciousness, sort of an energetic armoring. So this practice is literally just consciously breathing down through that area, letting go of tightness.
To feel more grounded, more present.
Exactly. Allowing energy to flow freely, expanding your presence.
And the last practice. Ejaculate up the spine.
Right. This is linked to the idea of converting the energy. It's a technique to try and transform that intense orgasmic energy into more of a whole body experience, a feeling of bliss, and potentially deepen intimacy.
How does that work, briefly?
It involves specific muscle contractions, like the pelvic floor, combined with breath work during the point of orgasm. The goal is to circulate the energy up the spine instead of just releasing it outwards.
So redirecting the energy internally for a different kind of experience.
That's the aim. A more expansive, potentially less depleting orgasm, enhancing connection.
Okay. Wow. Lots of practices there. Finally, let's touch on growth in intimacy and responsibility.
Right. He asserts, you are responsible for the growth in intimacy.
Meaning the man specifically.
He suggests the man often takes the lead in setting the direction for the relationship's growth, while the woman provides more of the energy and flow. It's a partnership, but with potentially different primary roles in its evolution.
And part of that responsibility is to insist on practice and growth.
Yeah, leading with empathy, with compassion, but also encouraging authenticity. Not settling for complacency, but actively fostering depth and genuine engagement in the relationship. Demanding truth in a loving way.
Okay. And lastly, restore your purpose in solitude and with other men.
So how men recharge their masculine core.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He contrasts it with how women often restore their feminine radiance through connection, community, sharing with other women.
Whereas men need
time alone, perhaps, austerity sometimes, challenge, and importantly, meaningful connection with other men. Men who can offer honest feedback, support their purpose, challenge them.
Different ways of replenishing those core energies.
Precisely. It underscores the value for men of having that dedicated space for reflection and connecting with other guys who get it.
Okay, so as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, wow, we've covered a lot.
We really have. From that whole masculine-feminine energy dynamic,
yeah,
the absolute centrality of purpose, in his view, navigating relationships, those body practices, it's interconnected.
Definitely. And, it's worth saying again, while the book's aimed at men, these core ideas, about energy, polarity, living authentically, relationship dynamics. There are insights here for anyone, really.
Absolutely. Anyone looking for a richer understanding of themselves and how they connect with others. So here's maybe a final thought to leave you with, something to mull over.
Okay.
Consider which of all these ideas we talked about, which ones really resonated with you, with your own life, your experiences, and maybe think about what one small shift, just in awareness maybe, or in an action, what small shift might lead you towards a bit more purpose or deeper connection, or even just more inner freedom?
That's a great question to sit with. We definitely encourage you to reflect on these concepts. And hey, if it sparks something, maybe check out Deida's book itself.
Yeah. Ultimately, these deep dives, they're all about getting a solid handle on big ideas quickly. We really hope this exploration of the way of the superior man has done just that for you today.